Okay, moving on to the superintendent debate. I would like to introduce Mr. George Tomyn, incumbent, challenger Dr. Heidi Maier, and challenger Pete Anderson. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
Good evening. Good evening.
Here's what we're going to do tonight. You're going to be asked 3 questions on a rotating basis, so each have an opportunity to speak first. You will have up to 3 minutes to answer each question with a 1-minute rebuttal time after each question when the question and answer period is complete, and you will have a 1-minute period to tell us about yourself and do a wrap-up. Please notice where the timekeepers are. They're going to give you a 60-second and a 30-second time warning. And please let me know if you need me to repeat any question at any time. If you're ready to start, Mr. Tomyn.
Yes, sir.
The Florida Commissioner of Education has highly touted the excellence of the Florida state standards. Do you agree with the Commissioner, Pam Stewart, that these are good standards?
First of all, thank you very much for the opportunity to be here this evening. It has been an honor and a privilege to serve as your superintendent for the last 3.5 years, and I am certainly looking forward to another term. The question, as I understand it, involves whether I support Commissioner Stewart and Department of Education and the legislature's support of the Florida state standards, or the Florida standards. Florida has a long history of the standards movement, and I certainly support the standards movement. We started with the Sunshine State Standards many years ago under Governor Bush's leadership. We changed to the next generation Sunshine State Standards. The state legislature and the governor adopted the Common Core State Standards, which were a nationwide attempt to create a standards movement. The state of Florida then tweaked, if you will, those standards, actually made them a little more difficult and aligned them with closer to the next generation Sunshine State Standards. And so now we have the Florida Standards. Standards simply tell us what students should be able to do when they get to a certain level. And certainly this helps us measure exactly where our students are and how effective our teachers might have been over the course of a course or the course of a year. The standards are not curriculum. Districts choose the curriculum that we use to reach those standards, and I certainly support the standards initiative that our Commissioner of Education and our Governor and our legislature have.
Thank you, sir. Dr. Heidi Maier, would you like for me to repeat the question?
Would you please?
Yes, ma'am. The Florida Commissioner of Education has highly touted the excellence of our Florida state standards. Do you agree with Commissioner Pam Stewart that these are good standards?
Our Florida state standards are the Common Core in disguise. All we did was we took Common Core, we added some math, we added a little bit of handwriting, and there you have it, the Florida standards. What we need to do is to look closely at the Florida standards and to look at the people who designed the standards, the companies behind the standards, the writing experts that helped write the standards. The leading math content expert of the standards, of the Common Core standards, has said they are mediocre at best. He refused to sign off on these standards, and he was appointed to the commission to write the standards by the great beings who created this beast that we now know as our Florida standards. We also have to look at our history standards. In a day where our students are leaving us and not understanding American history, in our Florida standards, we must celebrate the fact that America did not ratify the Treaty of Versailles, for one instance, one benchmark. I say we should be celebrating the fact that we did not. So as we look at that, we also need to look again at the background of the Florida standards, of the Common Core. We can go ahead and call them that. The companies that wrote the Common Core, Pearson, McGraw-Hill, they had a vested interest in not only the standards, but the textbooks that followed. You can see how the textbooks are aligned with revisionist American history presented in our Florida standards. You can also see, because these same companies write the assessments that our students must take and pass to exit high school, that again, we are pushing an agenda through these standards to our students. We can look at it that way. We can also look at the NAEP that just came out, the National Assessment of Education Progress, that most people tout as a sideline, a simple assessment to gauge everybody with. But Pearson, one of the Common Core writers, also is behind that. And the NAEP that just came out Wednesday also showed that we've slipped in math significantly in this past year across the United States.
Thank you.
Time.
Mr. Pete Anderson, would you like me to repeat the question?
I have it, thank you.
Proceed.
I'm a fifth grade school teacher, and one of the things that I know is I have to deal with the Florida State standards. Since I have been teaching in the last 10 years, I am very familiar with the Florida State standards. When we started the Sunshine State standards, we then moved to the Next Generation standards, and then we now have what they call the Florida State standards, which is Common Core. So I'm very much familiar with the standards that we teach in the schoolroom. I'm paid to teach them, and I think that that's what I have to do. Now, can we make them better? Yes, I believe very definitely we can make them better. I teach science and math in fifth grade. I know that our math standards need to be looked at again. I agree with Dr. Maier when she said that the math person who worked on Common Core backed off. He would not sign off on it. He did not like them. He did not feel that they were good. I agree with that. I agree that they need to be changed. We can change our standards. We have done it before. And so for me, and especially the math standards, they need to be changed. Now, you don't throw out the baby with the bathwater. There are some good things that I like about the standards, but there are other things that we can change, yes.
Good deal. Thank you, sir. Okay, at this time, would anyone like an opportunity to rebut?
I certainly would,
Proceed.
and all of the candidates on the stage, I believe, know that the Florida standards are required by the state of Florida, and we must follow those. To stand up here and say that you cannot do them, or that we must change them, or we have the ability here in Marion County to change those standards is simply not accurate, and we will follow the standards. They do offer a wonderful guidebook for what we need to have our students be able to accomplish. Again, those standards are not curriculum. Yes, we can celebrate America. Yes, we can do many things with our own curriculum and still meet the Florida standards. Thank you.
Ms. Maier?
Thank you. I have read the standards. I have read all of the standards, and we can change them. And I believe that one of the roles as a superintendent is to advocate, not only advocate for the 43,000 children that I'll inherit on August 31st, but to advocate for you, the taxpayers. The money that you have graciously granted us to run our school system is being wasted through foolish use of these textbooks that push an agenda on our students. Not only that, if we do not advocate for you, who will advocate for you? The standards can be changed. It just takes a leader out in front showing you the way, and together we can make a change.
Thank you, ma'am. And Mr. Anderson?
I'll just add a brief comment, and that is I do agree that the superintendent's office should be an advocate. He's right in that fact that I just can't take office and decide we're not going to do that today. He's absolutely correct. But you know, you can use that office to make changes in Tallahassee. And that's one of the things I'd like to do is make those changes. We've changed them before. We can change them again.
Mr. Anderson, thank you, sir. Okay, moving right along to question number 2. We're going to start with Ms. Maier. Ms. Maier, many parents and teachers are concerned about the types of questions and the scoring inequities of state assessments.
Okay.
The parent testing opt-out movement is strong. Mm-hmm. So how would you handle a situation where an elementary student's parent instructs their child not to complete the exam?
The law is clear. Students must be presented for the assessment. The law also says that the student must put their name on the paper or sign in, now that we're using computers, and that is the extent of what the student must do to be considered present and for that parent to be in compliance with the law. Again, the role of the superintendent is to represent the best interests of our children and to also represent the constituency. The opt-out movement has not caught on here in Marion County, but it is coming. It is coming strongly. And if that many people are vested in the children, and if that many people are showing issue, as I am, with these flawed state assessments that are not normed and they are not valid, there is research out there that says they are not normed or valid, and they don't even have any learning gains to them yet. Yet we're holding our children's feet to the fire, and we're holding teachers' raises, and we're holding their futures in tandem with these assessments that are not valid. So if this opt-out movement does appear, then I would definitely open the lines of communication and have great communication with parents, with constituency on what the issues are. That's one of the things that I believe is missing currently in our district, is that open communication between the district office and with the constituency. So along with communication, we'll also look at some reorganization and what can we do? What can we do, and why can we not use performance-based assessment, which the Florida Department of Education says in the many teacher exams that they make our teachers take, that performance-based assessment is the most valid assessment that there is. So again, the options are out there. The options are out there. It just takes a leader with a vision who's not beholden to the good old boy network, who will take that step out and lead. Thank you.
Mr. Pete
Can you repeat
Anderson.
the question, please?
Yes, sir. Many parents and teachers are concerned about the types of questions and the scoring inequities of state assessments. The parent testing opt-out movement is strong. So how would you handle a situation where an elementary student's parent instructs their child not to complete the exam?
Okay, I'm a fifth grade teacher, and we just finished our testing today. And, or at least in fifth grade, we had our science today, and we finished it today. And how I see it is, I think that we can use the superintendent's office a little better than we have been. I do believe it can be an advocate. I like the idea of opting out and having the opportunity for our students to opt out, not because they are going against Tallahassee. Yes, the law is very clear, but he has a superintendent's meeting that he goes to occasionally, and it seemed to me that if you could work together with the other superintendents of our state, you could really make some real change. You say, this is what I think we need to do in my county, in my district, and I think that if we could work together, what is the state of Florida going to do when you have a bunch of districts who now decide they're going to opt out? Not just one, because one district, you're right, everything bad that can happen is probably going to happen. They're going to go after the one district. But what happens if 1/3 of the state decide they're going to opt out? It's not fair that we're going to have our students evaluated by one exam. And the day before, anything could have happened from the day before. They didn't get breakfast that day. Their parents decided they were going to separate. There's many things that happen. And then they come in and they're supposed to test that day. And it's too bad if a 5-year-old, or not, I said 5, 9, 10, 11-year-old who makes a mistake and they're judged by one exam. It can't be. We've got to make our testing better so that they can have a chance to succeed. I do not believe we are getting a clear picture of what our students know because they take one test. And we sing about it. We do all kinds of things early in the school year, and we prep them. We teach to the test. Though no teacher would stand there and want to say, yes, they teach to the test. But we have all these trainings that we go to, and they'll say, well, 39% of the questions are going to be based on this one standard. Well, I thought all the standards were supposed to be equal, and they're all important, but I find that's not necessarily always true. We got to make sure that our students answered these questions on these standards. There's got to be a change. There's got to be a better way to do testing.
Thank you, sir. And Mr. George Tomyn, would you like me to repeat the question?
I think I'll give a go at it right now. Thank you very much, Joe.
Proceed, sir.
Without a doubt, the key to a student being comfortable in a testing situation and for the parent to feel comfortable in that same testing situation for their child is that we adequately prepare that student for that assessment. Here in Marion County, we do a great job helping our teachers in professional development, and as well as curriculum development and actual teaching and planning to do the best lesson for students. We then give them the opportunity to practice many, many times. We give parents the opportunity to come into our schools and work with their children. We give parents the opportunity to see the kinds of assessments that our children take on computer and on paper. We welcome our parents into our school. Just this past testing season, I cannot count on one hand or two hands the number of times that I've called our our counseling and assessment office and found out that Janet Weldon, who was a wonderful director in that department, is talking with a parent about this particular opt-out option, and we have very, very few, if any, students who join the opt-out movement. Our parents are comfortable, our parents understand what we are doing, and it's very, very important that they do, and we focus on that. As a member of the Florida Association of District School Superintendents, I do attend those meetings, as has been referenced. We do meet together, and we are a group of powerful, the group is more powerful than individuals are. We do work together with our legislators, and we certainly do work with the Department of Education and our leadership team at the Florida Association of District School Superintendents. And we will continue to do that. Assessment is very important. Not only do we have end of course or end of year assessment, we also are required by the state of law to do what's called progress monitoring. Progress monitoring is ongoing assessment, which helps, again, our students practice what they're going to be doing and also helps them understand and helps the teachers understand where the student might be along the way as they progress toward the end of the year. I'm very proud of what our teachers do. I'm very proud of what our curriculum and professional development departments have put together and a plan to help our teachers prepare our students to do the best that they can. And again, the key to that is to help prepare our students, and I certainly think that we're doing that today.
Thank you, sir. Okay. Would anyone like to rebut?
Of course.
Well, why don't you start?
I noted that it was said that we practice the test many, many times. Why? Why are we using valuable instructional time to practice taking a test? Again, it's because we are beholden to a system that is flawed, yet nobody is saying the system is flawed. We need a leader who will stand up and who will say, we have a flawed system, but you know what? We've got a plan and we can fix that. And my friends, that's what we're going to do together. Together we can fix this, and we'll do that starting August 31st.
I also have a comment to make too. I like professional development training, and I will mention only the one training that really wasn't, wonderful. This particular training I had to go to because I have to go to those trainings. And this particular one, you have a magic marker, and you had two colors, and you've got to highlight the standard that was used the most on the FSA test in math and reading. And then the other color was for the standards that were less used on the test. And I'm thinking, if that's professional development, keep it. Because I want to be professionally challenged. Not that all the training is that way, I'm not saying that at all, but that particular training definitely was.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Tomyn.
Practice does make perfect. Use the sports analogy, if you will. Teaching is having students practice what they're doing. You and I have been practicing for years. We practiced our spelling words, we practice our times tables, and we practice a little differently these days. Our students are modern students. We take advantage of the electronic opportunities that are here in our students, our computers, and various other techniques that we use. So let's not put behind us that practice is not important, and it certainly helps our students be successful. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, moving right along to question number 3. And Mr. Anderson, we're going to start with you first. In less than 3 years, our school district has dropped from 46th in the state to 59th. And there are only 67 school districts. Should we just sit back and wait to hit 67, or do you have a plan?
No, we don't need to sit back and wait for it to go further down. We need a leader who will stand there and say, let's make some major changes in our schools. We've got work to do that's ahead of us. We do need to make teacher training a little bit better. I'd love to have the opportunity to show you a plan that will give teacher training better, which means they can actually enroll in the training that would be good. And especially just for them. So that way they can say, well, I know what I need to know about behavior, for example, and I want to focus more on content of my particular, what I teach. So I'd like to change how we do teacher training. I think that we can do a better job of testing by de-emphasizing the test. Yes, it's important. I do know that it's important. But, why do we have to sing about it? Why do we have to talk about it like the first or second day of school where we start talking, well, in April you're going to have the FSA test, and this is what's going to come, and you need to make sure you know these particular facts and things that you do. Yes, it's true that the more we multiply, they're going to actually get them. Yes, I teach multiplication. Yes, I teach division. But, if they're going to do better, I'd like to have a district-wide, instead of having all the testing that we do, have the idea that we would have, 3 tests. One would be a benchmark test in the beginning of the year, another test in the middle of the year, and then, of course, the FSA would be the end-of-the-year test, if you will. And that would be the only test that the district would require. Every other test would be given by the teacher. Yes, it's true that assessments are important because we teachers need to understand what does the student know and what do they need to reteach because they don't know something. And so that's important, but if we're going to have our students do better, we need to use the data that we have and say, there are certain things that I need to change so that I can be a better teacher. I want my students to do well. I think that we can do a good job. For example, elementary schools do not have recess. And yes, I know that recess is not on the test. I know it's not on the test. But you have ADHD kids and you have ADD kids, and they're sitting in a classroom. They can't go outside except for the PE that we have occasionally through the week. And that's the only time that they can go outside. They're told to sit down, be quiet, and you're doing instruction. Or you're having group work, which sometimes they do move around. But the truth is, they're learning and doing things. They need to have some time for social interaction and times just to be children. And that's elementary school kids. My school, I don't think any of our schools at Marion County have a recess. And I think that that's time that we allow the students, to be children, but also make sure that they get the knowledge they need to not just pass the test, but the knowledge that they need to be successful in life.
Thank you, sir. Mr. George Tomyn, sir, would you like for me to repeat the question?
I think I'll be fine. Thank you very much, because I do want to question exactly where the ranking formula that you came up with. We have tons and tons of ranking procedures all across the United States. You can go Google that tonight if you'd like to get home and put in District Rankings Florida. You may get 10, 20, 30, or 40 different ranking systems. The state of Florida actually only ranked the districts one time since the history of the FCAT and now the FSA. And that was 3 or 4 years ago. I'm not exactly sure when it was. We don't do that anymore. So I'm not sure exactly what criteria is being used to come up with whatever ranking you were coming up with. And I realized that you were given that question. It has nothing to do with you personally, sir. But again, there are many, many rankings out there, and I would encourage the audience to go and look at those rankings. I think we need to look at something that is out there, that is specific. It's detailed. It's generated by the state of Florida. And that is the Marion County High School graduation rate. And I think you need to focus on this, folks, because we are concerned with how our schools, elementary schools, do at the end of the first quarter, our middle schools do at the halftime. But where we need to go is what's at the end of the game. What is the score at the end of the game? In the state of Florida, districts average 77% graduation rate. As figured by the federal graduation rate, meaning when a student enters 9th grade in the fall, they complete graduation requirements by the May or June of their 4th year. That's a statistic. We have a very robust system of tracking student data now, and we can figure that out in the state of Florida, and we do that. Again, the state of Florida percentage of graduation in that 4-year period is 77%. In Marion County, here, it is 80%, 3 percentage points higher than that. But let's keep in mind also, all of the programs in which our students in Marion County, including 2 DJJ programs at the jail, a DJJ program at the prison, dropout prevention programs, charter schools, not private schools, but every public school student is ranked. If you pull those numbers out and go directly to the 7 public high schools that are served by the 31 elementary schools and the 9 middle schools here in Florida, our graduation rate is 89%, a full 12 percentage points above the state. I'm very proud of that. That didn't happen overnight, but I'm very proud of our teachers. I'm very proud of our administrators. I'm very proud of our district staff who have helped us get to that point. That is our strategic plan, developing successful citizens every student, every day. And that's what we do. We create and develop and design and get to you a good graduate after the federal graduation rate of 4-year period of time. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Maier.
Thank you. The statistic that was given, I believe, came from the independent website, schooldigger.com, which again is independent. It was not ranked by the state of Florida, which if we look at their flawed assessments that they have our children take, might be a good statistical thing. If we do look at our graduation rates, we do need to look at these numbers carefully, and we need to look at where our students are going. There are alternative schools that some students go to. New Leaf, PACE are two. And the purpose of these alternative schools are to return the students to their base school so that they can graduate with their cohort, and they're to be commended for that. There's also another alternative school, Catapult, I believe that it's called. And when a student leaves us and goes to Catapult, and we pay them about $1 million a year, from my notes that I took at the board work session, we pay them about $1 million a year. And to do that, these students sit in front of a computer for most of their instruction. They have one-on-one teacher time about an hour during an entire week. We're paying them $1 million to do this. So over $4 million, they have graduated maybe 100 students. These students, when they leave us, they leave our rankings, they leave our school system, and they are signed into Catapult. So we are writing off students who have the potential of failing. We are writing off students who have the potential of not succeeding. And that is how many of our students just leave these cohorts that were mentioned before. So with our graduation rate, we need to look carefully at where exactly these students are graduating. We do a really good job with our students who are at the top level. We do a really good job with the students who are a little lower, but those students in the bubble that we keep referencing, the ones who cannot pass this assessment that we continue to give them, where are we looking at them? We need to free up our time for our teachers to be able to differentiate instruction properly for them. And we also, as we go back to look at our rankings, we need to revisit our discipline policy, and we need to turn over classroom management and the authority in that classroom to our teachers. Using current discipline policy, positive behavior support should be a little bit more than taking a walk with the dean and getting a piece of candy. I see positive behavior as much more intensive than that.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay. Who would like to begin the rebut? Proceed.
Certainly, I'd be happy to. Our business is to give students good opportunities to complete school. If a student is not being successful in a regular high school, we give them many different opportunities to go to another school. Catapult is one of those schools. It is a dropout prevention program. It is actually a dropout retrieval. These students are no longer with Marion County school system. They are gone. We have retrieved them, and Catapult is doing what I think is giving those students an opportunity to receive a Florida high school diploma. We generate those dollars. The dollars would not be generated if they were not in school anyway. So we're for opportunity for students. We'll continue to do that as long as I'm superintendent of schools, and I'm proud of giving those opportunities to all students.
Ms. Maier.
Yes, agreed that there should be alternatives for our students who are struggling. The goal, though, of these alternatives should be to encourage these students to graduate and to further their careers. When we look at Catapult and we are signing students out of Marion County schools to go to Catapult, and our district gets a kickback, I believe, from every student who goes to Catapult, that is a concern to me. I do look at schools like PACE and New Leaf and CERMI, whose goal is to return our students to their base school and so that they can graduate with a diploma.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Anderson.
I would say I think our teachers are doing a great job of graduating the students that come in, our high school students. I agree. I'm not sure why we talk about the positive behavior system. It is a system that we have, but I think when we were looking at the graduation rate, I do think that we can continue to have it increase. I do think that we need to take a hard look at those numbers and see exactly who is graduating, and do some number crunching with those numbers to making sure that's exactly who is graduating and who is being successful once they leave our schools.
Thank you, sir. Okay, what we're going to do right now is you're going to be given that 1 minute that we promised to tell us about yourself and wrap things up. Mr. Tomyn.
Thank you very much. So, well, first, I'd certainly like to thank those persons who organized this and who are participating in the ranking, judging, whatever they may be. This is a fantastic opportunity for you, the public, to see what is before you and candidates. I'd like to also thank the participants in tonight, my colleagues here on the stage, and also those who took time out of their schedules to do this. And certainly, I'd like to thank the people in the audience today, because you are very important. You're part of this political process, and without you, there's no reason for us to be here. So I would like to thank everyone. As I have mentioned, and as you already know, I have served in Marion County Superintendent for the last 3.5 years. It is my intention to serve for the next 4.5 years. I am actively seeking your support. I am a Republican candidate for the office of Superintendent of Schools. I ask for your support. I ask for your vote on August the 30th, and I look forward to continuing to serve our great community in this capacity.
Thank you, sir. And Ms. Maier.
Thank you, and thank you to everybody here for hosting this event. Thank you to all of you who came out this evening. I would like to start with some things. We've talked a lot about what we are and what we want to do, but I want to start with some things that I am not. I am not beholden to a system. I am not a career administrator who believes I'm entitled to a position simply because I was a coach and rose through the ranks and did everything I was told to do. I also am not going to pad the downtown office as a retirement fund for people who have contributed to the campaign. What I am is a woman with a vision who will seek out wise counsel, those surrounding us tonight, and the constituency. And I am asking humbly for your vote on August 30th. I'm Heidi, Maier. Thank you.
Ms. Maier, thank you. And last but not least, Mr. Anderson.
I also want to say thank you for coming tonight, and I appreciate the organizers for bringing us together. My name is Pete Anderson. I'm a school teacher. And the other two candidates that are on this stage, well, one of them is the current superintendent. And the last time he was in the classroom as a teacher was 36 years ago. He became an administrator in 1980, according to his website, and he's been an administrator ever since. My other opponent teaches at college, Central Florida. The last time she was in a public classroom was 11 years ago when she taught at my school, College Park Elementary School. I'm a teacher that the last time I was in a public school classroom was, well, this afternoon at 2 o'clock. I know what goes on in the classroom. I know what the teachers have to go through. I know what the students see every day. I know what the parents do, the bus drivers, and all of them do. And I know that we can work together and make our schools better. I'm Pete Anderson. Vote for me August 30th. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Incumbent George Tomyn, challenger Heidi Maier, and challenger Pete Anderson. Thank you very much.